Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, but is the camera on?
Yeah, oh, you're back. Oh, now we're alive.
Okay, Mr. Chair, we're gonna try and limp
Proceed.
through this. Um, All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Tonight, I bring you the staff report that accompanies the Franktown Road secondary plan. This is a secondary plan that we conducted a public meeting for at the last meeting of council. There was a presentation by JL Richards and Associates, and tonight I am joined by Mark Rivet in the back row behind me, who is also available to answer any questions that council may have of this plan. So between the public meeting last week and or last meeting rather, and the presentation you're receiving tonight, there are some modifications to the conceptual plan that I do want to illustrate for council so that there's a clear understanding of what has changed in response to comments that we received during public consultation. We'll start at the north end of the plan, and hopefully you can see my cursor as it moves along. We have removed the proposed future connection between the blue arrow heading north out towards Franktown Road at the bequest of the property owners out there. We have changed the land use designation on this area of land north of a local collector road from parkland to medium density residential with a parkland overlay. The parkland overlay is illustrated in text within the plan itself, which speaks to the fact that if the land is not developable due to the presence of organic soils, then it shall be considered for parkland purposes. However, if it can be demonstrated to be usable and developable land, then it will be used for residential purposes. We received feedback from the property owner of this affected property that there was a pre-existing easement agreement pertaining to the realignment of the drain. It is reflected here in the green easement lines here, and the drainage channel will be realigned to stay within that easement, connecting through a stormwater management block and then out through the existing channel along the line of the Walmart property. So that change has been made. I'd say one of the most significant changes that you'll see is that the area between the local road coming through between McNeely and Franktown Road south towards Highway 7 is no longer a residential mixed-use designation. These lands are now highway commercial. We did consult with the property owner who holds the majority of that land holding to get support for that change. And he did indicate that that was more in line with his future prospects of the site. We received comments from the property owner of the Thruway property, who also is present tonight, if council has questions for them, requesting that this road here be recognized at a 14-meter right-of-way current with plans that have already been approved for the site, so that has been reflected. And then as well, the lands where the Walmart shopping plaza is and is currently already constructed were previously shown as mixed use residential and commercial development. It has been amended to reflect only highway commercial zoning, with the remaining vacant portion of land recognized in text to permit both commercial or residential uses as determined in the future through further development proposals. I think that's it. Mark, am I missing anything? Those are the majority of the changes. Yep, I think that's it. There were some red line text amendments to the plan itself that's been included with the staff report and is available. And I will also point out that there is a public comment summary that was provided by JLR and appended to the staff report that indicates how comments received have been addressed either in Schedule A or in text of the plan. So, Mr. Chair, I understand there are 2 delegates scheduled tonight. Perhaps we'll let them speak, and then if council has questions of myself, I'll come back and address those.
Great, thanks, Nikki. And as Nikki indicated, we do have 2 registered delegates to speak on the secondary plan. If I would ask you to come forward, state your name for the record. Please stay on topic with your comments, and you will have 5 minutes to speak on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Julie Stewart. I'm a project manager planner with Kavanaugh Developments. I do have just a brief presentation to go through. So thank you for the opportunity to do so. You heard from our solicitor at the last meeting, and I just wanted to provide just some highlights and some background of the Coleman Central subdivision, and then into the proposed secondary plan. So the subdivision did receive draft plan approval in 2013. Phase 1 was registered in July of 2020. Kavanaugh purchased the property in 2020. Between 2020 and 2024, there were, I think, about 3 red line amendments to the plan. The latest was in November of 2024, and the final Phase 2 plan was registered July 16th, 2025. This on another page. Yeah, I see. Sorry, taking my 5 minutes. I'll go ahead. The next slide is just the M plan of the subdivision, just to describe what's within Coleman Phase 2. Is a total of 66 lots with block 92, which is proposed to be at 35 units. That's the as per the draft plan conditions. There's a stormwater pond. We have the ECA, we have the CUP, we have the hydro plan, the Bell plan, so it's under construction. Services are being constructed within this development. Oh. How did you do that? Interesting. Okay, just to get, okay. So, we have been, received email invitations throughout the project of the Franktown Secondary Road Plan from staff, and we appreciated those invitations, and we attended and participated in the meetings. Although the boundary of the secondary plan did go around our subdivision, we did attend just so that we were aware of what was happening on our adjacent lands. My next slide just shows, thank you, Stacy, the Franktown secondary plan process. Just to kind of highlight that the plan of subdivision was registered kind of midstream of this, or closer to the beginning of when the process was in place. There were open houses and our plan was registered in July 16, 2025. Following that, then we received the open house flyer, which showed the proposed collector road going through our site. I'm just sharing the timeline just to show that that's where our plan was registered at. And then we just had, there were two plans that were proposed at the June 3rd open house. This is option one. I know council has probably seen these. There was an option one and an option two. So still at the open houses, there was no effect immediately in our lands. And then following the those open houses, there was a public meeting, and within the public meeting notice is when it illustrated the 20-meter collector road traversing the Coleman Phase 2 site. So we have provided written comments, the solicitor has on our behalf, on behalf of Kavanaugh Developments and Patton Homes, because Patton Homes is the builder on the site, just to express our concerns with the impact of a 20-meter road going through the site. Will change the kind of the dynamic of the residential subdivision, in our opinion, by bringing that traffic through the property, and it will affect our lotting and it will affect the sales, we believe. And we're just curious, like we haven't, although there's been a process and there's been open houses, we haven't seen like a traffic analysis or a traffic study that suggests this 20-meter collector road should be located, that it's required and that should be located in this location. So that's what we're just kind of seeking some clarification on that. So I guess in the end, our request is that council consider amending the bylaw to remove that new collector road through the property. Just because of the impacts of the increased traffic, the noise, changes to the neighborhood, safety concerns. I mean, if it can be demonstrated, like we're looking for how that's demonstrated that that's needed or required in this location.
Great. Thank you, Julie. I gave you a little bit of extra time there because of the technical complications. We also have another registered delegate to speak on the secondary plan. Again, if you just no. Sorry. So is there any questions or comments for this? Mayor Randall?
Thank you, Julie. Sorry, can we bring back that graphic back up? Yeah, I'm sorry, I know. Struggling tonight. Anyway, I guess the question is that the very last graphic that we saw, that isn't, what was that? Where did Where was that from? Was that this last last open house that we did? And then yep. There we go. So this one was the last one in June. Then the new one came out with the road that you're talking about going west out to McNeely. That's, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it because this was not the what you're talking about isn't, you're talking about a road that's not on this map. It's on the next map. Okay.
Yeah, I believe it is on one of the other
There,
slides. and-
there we go.
Yeah.
Yep. That's
Which
it.
this is the notice, and I do believe there's been changes
Okay.
since the public meeting. Yeah, so that's not totally accurate yet either, but that shows the road. It's not up to date.
That was it. I just wanted to verify that she was talking about the one that's now on the screen, not the one previous. Thank you. Yep.
Yep.
Thank you. That's all the questions I had.
Thank you, Mayor Randall. Any other questions from council for Julie? See none? Okay, we'll move on to our second registered delegate. Again, please just state your name, stay on topic, and 5 minutes, please.
Mayor, councillors, Bill Katsoulis from the Thruway property. If we can just bring up the map that Nikki had. I get it. Our property has a lot of history, and there's a lot of minutes of settlement associated with that property. Some of the things that, for instance, with the public road that I just want you to be aware of. In order for a public road to go through there has to be adjustments to the current site plan. And there will need to be certain amendments done to that site plan that infringe on setbacks, parking. And I don't know the full vast nature of where we're going to infringe, but in order for that site plan to work with that road going through at 14 meters, as proposed, it goes through buildings, it goes through parking, it will take juggling to make that site plan to work. And that's kind of why it's at 14 meters, but even at 14 meters, it does need modification. And if you can just give me a bit of room, Mr. Chair, with what's happening on Highway 7 with the MTO restricting left turn into all of these businesses, the initial discussion was to approach MTO to pay for some type of a road network on the north side of the highway in order to facilitate movement to current businesses and future businesses, because everybody wants to develop their property. We're not sure what has happened with that, and this is part of that. So initially, there was discussion that MTO was going to step up and do something. And after that study, everybody has kind of disappeared. So has there been any discussion? And I know this is a little bit off topic, but it is pertaining to this, because at the end of the day, who's going to pay for this? And I believe the estimates were in the $6 million range. So there's a lot of questions to be kind of answered in terms of who's paying for what, how this is going to be implemented, what leniency is going to happen to site plans that are already in existence that are going to be impacted by this. I want to quickly jump to the P. That was green at one time, now it has gone yellow. That area was the subject of amendments of settlement. And that's why there is an easement, a drainage easement, that is to be constructed by the town according to those documents. When all of this was transpiring, the idea was that would be a municipal drain with a bike path, walk path, and it would be taken over by the town. So the easement's already in place. Those agreements have already been made. MVCA was part of those discussions. And we do have emails from MVCA stating that, I want to get the wording right, the wetland and at the time fish habitat mitigation that was done by the Walmart would be carried through at the time New Globe, through us, and then on to Morrow's property or the old Morrow's property. Those were the players at the time, so that's why I'm using. There's a little bit more history to all of it, and we look forward to working with staff to kind of work through this. Unfortunately, I couldn't open Nikki's email and she has made adjustments, so you know, we hope that moving forward, we're still able to work on this in the next coming weeks to kind of, and I'll send an email stating all of this, but it's a bit more complex than just what you're seeing. So it's going to require us working with the town, working with us working with the town to kind of, if this is the vision that is wanted, then it's not just putting the plan on and stamping it. There's a lot of moving parts to it already. And my last question is there any appetite to engage with MPP Jordan over who's going to kind of assist in paying for all of this? Because as soon as you start talking money, everybody does this.
Thank you, Bill. Is there any questions or comments from council? Deputy Mayor Tennant?
Just wanted to clarify, when you say it was the east-west corridor, you mentioned something's about $6 million. Is that what you're referring to? Is that road?
So there was one of the presentations that was done here, and I believe it may have been the study that was done after the initial MTO study, where there was a feasibility thing about, and I don't know if it was the budget that came out at the same time, but it was around that time. And there was a water and sewer component, a road component, about getting the water and sewer through to service all the other properties, and then a road network to facilitate either, at the time it was discussions over loss of the left end from Highway 7 because of the median, as well as you put anything in there, it's going to facilitate development as well. So you know, in our opinion, when the highway takes part of your access, you are entitled to some form of compensation for that. We believe the compensation should be in some form of, you know, Franktown to McNeely roadway. How, when, who, how much? I think that, you know, all three parties have to be brought to the table to have that discussion. Because right now, the parties that we did have discussions with are no longer around, they're retired. So we don't know who to talk to.
Follow up, Deputy Mayor Tennant?
No, I guess from what I remember, and someone can correct me because this is a year or two ago, when the MTO finally did unveil their final plan, they were no longer interested in putting in the roads because they were saying that they're going to use nighttime work to avoid having the left turn issue from the median so that they could come off the highway directly and only work at night. That was the last I remember. Is that correct? Did anybody? Yeah. Okay. So from my understanding, they took that off the table.
The ultimate solution for Highway 7 is a permanent median from Franktown Road to McNeely. Therefore, there will be no left in on either side of the highway. Therefore, that's the compensation I'm talking about. So when MTO comes and takes your entrance and shuts down your business, worst case scenario, they have to compensate you for that loss. What we're saying is we are suffering a loss. All businesses are suffering the loss of a left in. We are maintaining a right in, right out eventually. But the loss of the left in facilitates some kind of compensation. And we view that compensation as, and this has been discussed with them, some kind of financial compensation for a road network or whatever in order to maintain the movement.
Okay, so anything within the MTO with it is really outside of the scope of this. So if there's any, I would refrain any additional questions from council or yourself on anything to do with MTO, because it really is outside of the scope of what we're talking with here, respectfully. Mayor Randall.
So Bill had a couple of questions within that I think were more staff related, maybe, that he made mention of the 14-meter road, which is already, that's been agreed to, correct? The other issue was the green portion of the parkland that has now been converted. Is there any, I guess, you asked a couple of questions. I don't know that council, we're not answering those questions. So I guess, is there anything that you asked that staff have to respond to, I guess?
I'm going to formulate my, you want me to ask them now?
No, sorry, you asked a few questions through that.
Yeah.
And we're not the ones that answered. It's that, so I guess is what you're saying is you're gonna do up an email, send it off, and have those questions answered at a later date, and we are going to make our decision. Sorry, Billy, we're gonna make a decision on the secondary plans that sits right now as we're looking at it. And then you're asking staff to continue to have conversations moving along with regards to your properties as it relates to this plan.
Yes, I believe so.
Thank you. Then I don't have
But
any
if I can just touch on the chair's comment about the MTO stuff. This all came about because of that study. That's why and I understand we're focused on this, but if this all hinges, otherwise, if this gets passed and we don't agree, then we're going to continue with our current site plan, which doesn't reflect this plan. So I don't know.
Nikki, did you have any input, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Katsoulis makes a fantastic point about the fact that these properties, the collection of properties that we're dealing with are complex. They're at various stages of development, and I don't think anybody involved in this process would disagree with the fact that our lives would be much easier today if this type of plan and undertaking had been completed 20 years ago. That said, and appreciating that Mr. Katsoulis was unsuccessful in opening the revised plan that I provided to him yesterday, I have great confidence that once you start looking at this, you're going to see within the plan that the amendments that we have made between the version of the plan that was circulated during the public consultation and what has been presented to council tonight accurately reflects and accommodates the development plans that have already been approved, as well as those minutes of settlement. We will take the conversation, council, offline if there are further changes that need to be made, or if there are disagreements. This process doesn't stop when council makes a decision on the bylaw. Our intent is to come forward with a bylaw to adopt the plan at the next meeting of council, unless council decides otherwise. But as is stated in the plan, the deliverable in order to complete our HAF fund was to provide a bylaw adopted by local council by the end of October. Once council does pass that bylaw, because this is a secondary plan and it is treated in the same way that an official plan would, the process then goes on to the county for a final approval, and there are commenting and amendment abilities through that. If at the end of the day, the plan that is approved by the county is not to the liking of a particular property owner, then they certainly do have appeal rights to the Ontario Land Tribunal, just as they would during an official plan amendment. So with that said, Mr. Katsoulis and I will have great conversations later this week, and we will walk through the plan in much more detail. But I do have great confidence that what is being presented today addresses the existing concerns that Mr. Katsoulis has had.
Thank you, Nikki. Is there any other questions or discussion for anything pertaining to this report? Mayor Randall.
Thank you. Just quickly, I think Nikki really hit the nail on the head when she said, I think it would have benefited everybody if something like this was put in place a long time ago. We have 17 landowners in a tight space, some that have already had stuff approved going back. I think the first thing that Julie showed was 2013. I think Bill probably has one from earlier than that or thereabouts. But our idea as a council and staff is we're not trying to injure anybody. We're not trying to hurt any one landowner. We're looking at it's really hard. We're trying to be as fair as possible to everybody in the hopes that you are all going to develop this land, and we know it's going to add bodies and cars and bikes and foot traffic. And how are we going to move all those people about? So I get it, right? None of these plans, when you're doing it midstream, is going to make everybody happy. And in some cases, nobody happy, I guess. But we're not trying to injure anybody. We're trying to do our best with your input and staff's input to make a decision that, quite frankly, again, would have been great if it had been made 20 years ago, or a portion of it 20 years ago. And now we have what we have. And I thank everybody for their input, staff, landowners, citizens, everybody, because this land is going to get developed probably in our lifetime. And that's what we're looking to do, is just to get all those people moving safely and as efficiently as possible through that site to other sites and through that site. So anyways, that's all I got to say. I think it's as it sits right now is as fair as we can make it. And I look forward, like I said, I look forward to having conversations with anybody that thinks they can improve upon it. I'm all ears, as I think every council member is we want what's best for everybody in the future, including clients that you will one day sell commercial units to or residential units to.
Thank you, Mayor Randall. Any other questions or comments? If not, I will read the motion. See none? The recommended motion is that council pass a bylaw to adopt amendment number 11 to the Town of Carleton Place official plan, Franktown Road neighborhood secondary plan, as outlined in the report by Director of Development Services dated September 23rd, 2025. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Atkinson, seconded by Mayor Randall. All in favor? Opposed? And that motion carries. Thank you, everybody. We are now moving on to the sign bylaw housekeeping amendment, communication 136090. We will just wait for Lennox Smith, CBO, to come and give us that report. And here he comes. Len, the floor is yours.
Good evening. I'm here this evening to go over and answer any questions related to a housekeeping item that I brought forward with our current sign bylaw. It's been about a year and a half since we changed our model, and we've listened to input from the public from other, asset holders and other businesses around town. And we've implemented a few changes that I've outlined in the report. I'd be happy to go over any questions if anybody had anything and answer any concerns that somebody or anybody might have.
Thank you, Len. I will read this let's open it up. Is there any questions or comments from council for Len this evening? See none. It's going to be an easy one for you. I will read the suggested motion then. That council repeal and replace signed bylaw 28204 and any amendments thereto with a new sign bylaw incorporating changes as proposed in the chief building official's report dated September 23rd, 2025. Can I get a mover and seconder on that, please? Councillor Comley. Councillor Sekaspina. All in favor? Opposed? And that motion is carried. Sorry.
Before we get into Ross's reports, which might take a little bit longer, can we just quickly deal with community enrichments, the last report that's on there, if you don't mind? Then Jessica could go home and because I think Ross's are going to take a little longer. So.
I will take that suggestion and let's move on to the next report will be a community enrichment grant program, secondary intake, communication 136094, Jessica Hanson, community development coordinator. It's all yours.
Perfect. Thank you. Good evening. I am so thankful for this. So thank you everyone for entertaining me going on, although that will be very interesting presentations, but I can make bedtime with my kids, so I appreciate it. I am here to present the applications that came forward for the second intake of the community enrichment program. As you can see, there was 4 based on the judgment criteria that we go off of. Applicants that are seeking in-kind support are favorably chosen above monetary support with the rationale that it's easier to track and monitor those spends as opposed to just giving financial donations. So within that, we are suggesting $1,500 in-kind support for both the Ukrainian festival as well as the Carleton Place Beer Fest, both of which were tourism-driven events. Beer Fest was in its first year and Ukrainian festival was back again and another very successful event. So after those $3,000, you can see we have a very small remaining pot. And unfortunately, we couldn't give the full $1,500 that was requested for the Slow Spokes Common Empire Candy Burner Run, as well as the Carleton Place Christmas Day dinner. They were both seeking $1,500 of financial support, but we split what was remaining and are proposing $1,150 for each. So with that, that would conclude basically our intake for 2025. So I would welcome your questions.
Thank you, Jessica. Is there any questions or comments from council? Councillor Comley.
Thanks, Jessica. I really like this program. I like that we support community initiatives and tourism initiatives, and I'd like to see our money go as far as possible. We tend to always give $1,500 of in-kind support. Is there any tracking of that, of what our cost actually is, and potentially could there be more to hand out that way?
Thank you through the chair. I love this question. We've started doing a better job this year of tracking event by event once it's over. Typically, we would do $1,500 just because it kind of leaves that bit of a buffer of from when somebody actually decides they want to host an event to what actually becomes the event. Is it additional staffing time? Do they need another portable washroom? Did they have extra like tents and things that they need to pick up? So we kind of blanket them at $1,500. Sometimes they go well over that the organizer actually has to pay in the end a little bit or take from their proceeds if they exist. But what we are proposing for next year is going quarterly intakes instead of just 2 intakes a year. And with that, that gives us a better opportunity of tracking. So after your first intake, you know what those events from the first quarter actually ended up being, which kind of adjusts the pot for the second intake, third intake, fourth intake. So we're getting there. We're not quite there yet, but that is the intention going forward.
Deputy Mayor Tennant?
We were actually in a meeting today for the recreation service review. And the grants came up, and I think we're going to be probably looking at some sort of changes going forward because because if we're changing the rates for various rentals, it sort of has some effect on the community enrichment grant. So we asked that staff come back with some ideas for next time we have a review. So we'll have something for to look at soon.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Tennant. Any other questions or comments for Jessica before I read the motion? See none? Sorry? Diane, sorry.
So Mr. Chair, I have a suggestion that because we don't know where some of the things actually came in, but if by year end, we find that some were underspent on their events, would you like to add to the motion to indicate that we could give up to the maximum amount of the 1,500 if funds permit by the time before year end?
Can you read the motion with that amendment, please?
Okay, I would add something that and should funds permit by year end, given actuals spent on events, that the allocations be increased for those that did not receive the maximum on an evenly split basis or something like that. You get the gist of it.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Tennant, seconded by Councillor Kavanaugh. All in favor? Opposed? See none, and that motion has carried. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So we are back now to item 4. Emergency replacement of security access system for 3 Francis Street and Carenback Childcare Centers, communication 136091. Ross Rankin, property and project manager. It's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be very brief on this one. There was an emergency repair that was completed this year. I informed council of the work that was going to be proceeding. Unfortunately, it's a little bit more than what we thought that it was going to cost us, as you can see in the report. But we did have 2 failures over a period of time, which affected both 3 Francis and Carenback. After the first occurrence, a team came together, including IT and myself and some other staff, to look at an upgraded new security system. So we were getting really prepared to propose it in the budget for 2026. And unfortunately, it failed again. So we proceeded with the repairs.
Thank you, Ross. Is there any questions or comments for us? See none. I will proceed with the suggested motion. Is that council receive the report from the property and project manager on the emergency replacement of the security access system for the 3 Francis Street and Carenback Childcare Centers, and that the budget deviation of $51,582.14 be funded from the childcare surplus, if any, or from the childcare reserves. Moved by Councillor Comley, second by Councillor Kavanaugh. All in favor? Opposed? And that motion is carried. Thank you. Ross, you're still there. We are on to Coldwater Ice Resurface Flooding, Real Ice, communication 136092. Take it away.
Thank you, through the chair. I think this is a bit of a good news report that's coming to council. If you recall, a couple of years ago, the town had an audit done on a net zero report, a roadmap to net zero report, several pages of information. I provided some of the highlights in this report so that you can see. And cold water flooding was one of the things that was really highlighted. Reduced a lot of energy, a lot of savings in energies, all those kinds of things. Reduce greenhouse gases, and those types of things. So At the time, the cost of doing the work was about $50,000, including the installation. And so we really didn't take a look at it. It's one of those items that is kind of a nice to do kind of thing. And I'm also always a little bit skeptical about some of these things. I've been in this industry for long enough to understand that there's been different products where there's magnets in the water system and all kinds of things that everybody proposed things that would work. We were approached recently and we were informed about these incentives, which would basically cover the cost of it. So the IESO, which is basically the Hydro Authority, Electrical Authority, as well as Enbridge, would cover the cost of the material. We did our due diligence. I had a conversation with the Recreation Department. Connor Edwards and I met to discuss this. We met with 3 different individual municipalities across the province. There's probably about 30 of them that are using this product. And I wanted to ensure that it wasn't just the savings, that the quality of the ice was at least as good or better. And from our research, the ice is actually better quality. It's clear. It's removing the air out of it, out of the water. So it's reducing the temperature from about 140 degrees Fahrenheit down to about 65, between 65 and 68. And the savings, annual savings is about down here, $36,000 a year, I believe, if I recall. $33,000, almost $34,000 a year annually of savings, and I'm recommending that we proceed. I'll take any questions that anybody has.
Thank you, Ross. Any questions or comments for Ross from the council? Mayor Randall.
Just a comment, I had no idea what the heck this thing was. Looked it up and saw what it was. Didn't look like much. But I watched about 5 testimonials of different municipalities and people who are running facilities using this system. And everybody, now obviously they're not throwing bad ones on there, but it's a good product, and it enhanced the ice, didn't take away, and kept playability the same. So if there's financial gain to the town, better for the environment, and it makes the ice better, but doesn't affect the game negatively, you're going to have happy hockey players and happy town, because we're saving some money. So this is great. I think again, for something that I never heard of before, it's kind of an interesting concept and seems to be a good one. So thanks for finding it.
Thank you, Mayor Randall. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Conley.
Yeah, my comments are similar, and echo Mayor Randall's. I'm really happy that you bring such things forward to us. You've done it a few times with greenhouse gas emission reductions, which is kind of important to me and one of the reasons I am doing this. So I'm happy to see it. And if you promise the ice is going to be good, then I'm all for it. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Conley. Any more questions or comments for Ross before I read the motion? See none. The suggested motion is that council approves proceeding with the supply and installation of the cold water ice resurfacing flooding system, real ice, at the arena prior to the October 31st, 2025 deadline to receive the financial incentives totaling $43,383.33 towards the cost of the project, and that the budget deviation of $10,000 be funded through the year-end surplus, if any, or asset management reserves. Can I get a mover and seconder? Mayor Randall, Councillor Sekaspina, all in favor? Opposed? And that motion has carried. Thank you. And Ross, you are still on the seats. The recreational concept plan, communication 136-093. So here's.
Thank you through the chair. As council will recall, that this was a strategic priority for council in this term. We brought forward on June 24th committee of the whole meeting the concept of what could happen if we wanted to expand some of our facilities. One of the things that I really want, there's a couple things I want to highlight, but one of the things I really wanted to highlight is the study that was completed in 2024 that I brought to council on the condition of the pool and the somewhat urgency of dealing with that type of thing, right? Dealing with the pool, whether or not we fix the pool, invest in the current pool, or whether we build a new pool. So it's, we don't really know what's going to happen. There could be some issues and anything could happen at any time. But after the meeting, we met with Watson and Associates to look at the development charges. We also looked at the impact and received information from the architect on what the cost would be to start the process of an architectural firm and the percentage costs and those kinds of things. So that's part of the report. So we've provided two options here. It's really staff's recommendation that we develop a working group that would consider all the information obtained to date and discuss proposed next steps, including but not limited to, and there's a list of them there. So option one is really the one that staff is promoting of the two that are available. And I will take any questions that council will have.
Thank you, Ross. Councillor Sekaspina.
Hi, Ross. Thank you for that report. I have people on social media that have this arena built now in the swimming pool. And I just want you to clarify, is there a time frame on this, or is this all just for information for future reference?
Thank you through the chair. This is a concept plan. So council was looking to see what kind of facilities could be built. When and if a decision is made on what is being built, we're looking at likely 2 to 3 years, like a year before anything can happen once the decision has been made, and likely 3 years until construction would be completed.
Deputy Mayor Tennant.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people ask me about this since we did the first presentation. It's obviously a pretty exciting idea. Couple of things that I was wanting to make clear, or at least sort of expand upon, is one of the questions is how are we going to afford it? And I think everyone's assumption is it's going to be paid for through taxation, and I don't think that's the intention here at all. I think one of the reasons that council wanted to get this plan, ready was to be ready if any grant money became available. And we've been incredibly successful over the last few years, but sourcing grants from upper level government. So, if we don't have a plan, we can't ask for the grant funding. So we're dead in the water when that program comes up. So that was one thing that gets discussed a lot. I don't intend for us to be, fully tax funding this project. I think that would be far outside of what we were able to do. Another thing that we were asked about a lot is, why does it look like this instead of this, instead of this, instead of this? And I think that was addressed with the report that Ross mentioned, that this is a starting point. We don't know ultimately what it's going to look like. We started the conversation with this, shape and size of project, but who knows what it'll look like by the time, the public consultation's all finished with and everybody's gone round and round, and, we find things that we want to change. It could be way different by the time we actually, if we ever break ground, it might look a lot different than it does now. So those are the two big ones, that it's, there's still a long way to go on this before anything happens, and that we're going to be looking for funding the entire time. So as far as questions, no, I really like the design. I like what the architect did with it, and I think if we had the money, it'd be great to have this. But well, let's go to the public with it, and let's see what they come up with.
Mayor Randall.
Thank you. And yeah, I concur with everything Deputy Mayor Tennant said. I like the idea of a working group. I'm not sure what that looks like. Does it involve members of council, parts of user groups, citizens? I think we need to determine how big we want that to be, who would be on it. I think it's important that it's a represented from across the community that would be using a facility like this. And I think it is kind of the next steps that we also need to decide, as Andrew alluded to, is public consultation and surveys to kind of see what our citizens think. We've given you kind of an idea of a cost on a square footage. What's in it? We've got to hear from citizens and then make a decision from there. But I think that that's kind of the next steps, and I'd be open to people's thoughts on what a working group might look like, or is that going to be, we're going to decide on a working group and then later after the fact kind of make that decision with staff?
So I think the thought is that it would be a working group of, say, 3 counselors who would kind of help to drive the process. And I think we can still do that public consultation part, just as we did with take the Franktown Road secondary plan, where you had certain meetings with the property owners within so, you know, we could do consultation with the user groups at the facility, but then we could also do public open houses where you would hear from the more general public. Things that we're thinking about is, you know, if we're doing these public consultations and meetings with the various user groups, I think it's about, you know, crafting the questions that we want to ask people on a survey that we could give them when they're there, or they can fill in after the fact about, you know, do you like what you see? Are there things that we're missing? Are, you know, are you willing to pay more in order to have these additional things? So I think it's helping to guide sort of this next phase, but I think a smaller group kind of where we can have some, I guess, I don't know. It's just helping to guide the process, helping staff to work through that process and how it's going to look. Things just like our service delivery review committee will come back to the greater council in terms of reports. It's not that we're not going to do that. We will. It's just easier to sometimes have conversations in a more less formal manner.
Mayor Randall?
Thank you. Okay, that sounds like a good plan, and I look forward to kind of what comes of this and what our community says. One thing I do know is that we're growing. We're going to continue to grow. We're going to need more amenities for our citizens. And I look forward to, again, we're at the start of a probably a relatively long journey, and grant money would be perfect. So let's get this summed up as quick as no pressure, but yeah, I think that working group will kind of set us down a path and involve the public, which is important in this situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Randall. Any other questions? Councillor Atkinson.
Thank you, Chair. I can echo what's already been said about the importance of this and the fact that we do need to be growth focused when we're looking at this. I can support the motion that's forward with respect to a working group, but I just would like assurance that it's not going to be focused entirely on this plan, that this plan is just a point of reference so that they understand costing, because this originally started with the urgent need to replace our pool. And I think that should be the underlying focus of the project, and the consultation with the public is moving the pool here. Does it make sense? Is the pool that's proposed going to be big enough? I would like to see the old Carenbeck model brought into this as well, where we talked to Mississippi Mills and talked to Beckwith about contributing to an aquatic center to see if we can't do more on this site first and foremost. That's how we built a pool in the past. It worked for a number of years. And if it's the only aquatic center in the region, you're going to be looking at a user group of 50,000 people in 25 years, not 25,000 people. And maybe that's the scope we should be imagining things. So it's not that I don't like the plan. I have questions about it. I worry that we're putting all our eggs in one basket with this proposal. I think sticking a theater out there isn't the best idea. A theater would do much better in one of our central business districts to help anchor those businesses like the downtown or along the Highway 7, just as an example. But I would just like to see that visioneering broader in scope in terms of what we can do with a recreation center or recreation centers sprinkled around the town. but it does need to be anchored with, we need to replace the pool. Are we going to do that? And is this a good idea? How, first and foremost? More of a rant than a question.
Thank you for that rant, Councillor Atkinson. Councillor Conley.
Yeah, my comments were along the same line. I want to stress the importance of public consultation, but also of communicating with our neighbors, because again, neither one of them have a pool. And they look to ours. So I think it's important that we do consult beyond our borders as well as with the public to make sure that we are building what this area is going to need. I like option one. I don't think should be just this council that's doing it. Smaller groups and staff and public consultation are needed. So I'm happy to see this moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor Conley. Any other questions or comments? I will say it's been a lot of work getting to this point. We're very early into it, and I will reflect back to what I think Deputy Mayor Tennant said, is looking at an entire scope of what's not there now that we could possibly include, what's there that may not be, what the public wants with it. So again, I just want to state that I'm happy with the process as we're moving along, and I will open up the suggested motion if there's no more questions. Mayor Randall? Sorry?
I would move option one.
Do we have a second on that? Councillor Comley? I will read the motion. That council approves option one with respects to the next steps associated with the recreational concept plan as outlined in the report by the property and project manager dated September 23rd, 2025. All in favor? Opposed? And that motion is carried.
So just in terms of keeping this train going down the track, are we prepared to suggest who the members of that working group could be so that we can continue to keep working?
That's a great question. Mayor Randall, I think you should probably answer that question.
Well, no, I think, so this is coming to council in 2 weeks. Could we have that list of names? I don't know that anybody's thought about being on it or want to be on it. If we have that 2-week time frame, if that works with everybody, sorry, and I'm open to whatever.
Yeah, could staff maybe get an idea of what kind of time commitment you're thinking of in the coming months for this working group so we can help make that decision?
If we could have that list for you when we approve or talk about, disapprove it at council, then you'd have that group moving forward.
So my suggestion will be that rather than this going on a consent report of the next, we'll put it as a separate motion, and then we'll have a part that says, and that the following members of council be appointed, and then that'll trigger us to put the names onto the motion. Okay?
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. That's it for reports this evening. We are on to new and other business, which we have none. Committee, board, and external organization updates, which I'm sure we have all reviewed. You'll just throw, is there any comments or questions on the BIA minutes dated August 25th? Sorry, see none. I will read the suggested motion that the BIA minutes dated August 25th, 2025 be received. Moved by Councillor Kavanaugh, second by Councillor Sekaspina. All in favor? Opposed? And that motion has carried. Moving right along, information listings, Mississippi Valley Low Water Response Team meeting minutes from September the 3rd, 2025. Suggested motion. Mayor Randall, I'm just not used to questions or comments.
I know this, I think this is relevant, but I know we have members that are on the board. So the most recent thing I saw from with regards to this Carp River and Mississippi River, obviously water's low. They're talking about doing a drawdown over the next period of time. Drawdown meaning they're going to reduce it further because they're talking about spring, or are they drawing down water out of the upper shed into the lower shed. Okay, thank you. That, I was like, man, we got nothing left to give you kind of thing. I was worried.
Perfect. And I left my mic on, Mr. Randall, so Mayor Randall, so no one heard that. I left my mic on, Mayor Randall, so no one heard that. I apologize. Yeah. So I will read the suggested motion that the information listing dated September 23rd, 2025 be received. Moved by Councillor Conley, second by Mayor Randall. All in favor? Opposed? See none, and that motion has carried. Thank you. We will now be moving into closed session. 2 matters: to update on community planning matters and potential purchase or disposition of property. That the committee move into closed session at 8:07 PM to discuss matters subject to the Municipal Act, Section 239-2, proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. Item 2, and a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, and that the following persons be permitted to participate in the meeting: Diane Smithson, CAO, Stacy Blair, clerk. Moved by Councillor Comley, second by Councillor Atkinson. All in favor? Opposed? See none, and we will be moving into closed session.
For both items in closed session, staff direction was provided.
Thank you. Adjournment suggested motion is that the meeting be adjourned at 8:37. Moved by Deputy Mayor Tennant, second by Councillor Kavanaugh. All in favor? Opposed? See none. That motion is carried. Thank you very much, and we will reconvene in 2 weeks. Cheers.